to How to Achieve Ultimate Fulfillment. This is week 2, class 2, dealing with gratitude and forgiveness. So I'm going to start by telling you guys a story, okay? And ultimately, every module that we do here, every class is designed to deliver on the big promise, how you can achieve and sustain ultimate fulfillment in your daily life every day. So especially today, if you think that I'm getting scattered and going really far and like, oh my God, Carlos forgot to bring us home, I'm always here to bring you home. It's just that sometimes we're going to take a long way around, and then sometimes it's going to be a quick trip, but we'll always come back home. I promise you guys that, okay? One of our dear friends wrote this week to me, and he said something that the way he said it, it really struck a chord. And again, this is about the big picture of the overall course before we get into the details of forgiveness and gratitude. And what this young man said is about having an awareness when he is in reaction mode. And I love those words because this is really key. We have to be aware of the mode that we're in, you know? It's very hard for me to forgive someone if I'm angry. That's just common sense, right? It's very hard for me to make a good decision if I'm being emotional. And the scary thing is, the reason that I like this phrasing so much is an awareness of when I'm in reaction mode, is because many times when we're in a heightened sense, when we're especially upset, we're especially angry, we think we're very clear. No, I'm super clear right now. This is what I'm going to do right now. I'm clear. Absolutely. And it's like one of the worst decisions that you can make. But it's like when you're drunk or stoned, everything seems like a good idea, but it's not. So it's really important when we're going to execute on a decision in our lives to first take stock and have an awareness of what mode am I in? Am I in vengeance mode? Am I in reaction mode? Am I in angry mode, depressed mode? Am I in undervalue mode? Am I it's owed to me mode? Okay? Am I in I'm gonna show them mode? That's my favorite one. Every time that I'm gonna show somebody something, I fall flat on my ass and I learn about 10 different things. And so let's try to avoid, that falling flat on our butts, right? Let's have an awareness when we're gonna make a decision in life, when we're gonna settle accounts with someone, and we're going to respond to someone or to a situation. Yeah, I want to thank my brother again. You know who you are, because I'm looking right at you on the screen, that you sent this, and it's so beautiful, because we need to have an awareness of the mode that we're in before we make a decision. Because everything, it's like today with my wonderful, amazing partner, I have a tendency to vent. If I get upset, I've got it down to my four corners. Like my four corners of my house and my room. That's pretty much the only place that I vent. And on Taita Juanito's couch, I'll vent to him a lot too. But that's all it is. It's just me venting. I'm ventilating that energy out. I'm letting it go. And then that's it. It doesn't go beyond that. So if you need to process angry thoughts, or thoughts of strangulation, or whatever it is you need to process, if you need to verbalize it, that's squirrel of a skunk, and you need to get that out there. But in a contained environment, that's okay. You're human, and sometimes we got to put the lid up a little bit and release some of the pressure. But once you make a decision, once you speak in front of someone else, now you basically set it in stone. There's going to be a series of consequences. There's going to be an evolution of that decision or those words, and boom, they're going to arrive at a consequence. So this consequence is often more a result of the mode that we were in rather than the decision or the words themselves. So it's very important, again, if what you want is joy, abundance, fulfillment, grace, compassion, happiness, excitement, and passion in your life, when you make decisions, make them from these places. Make them from these elevated frequency. And the rest of the time, vent a little, get it out, let it go, and come back to your center. It's a very advanced class, okay? And it's not super advanced because we're not getting into deep arts, but there's a lot of alchemy that you'll be learning in these classes, and there's deeper levels of transcendental truth. Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus, he taught that all truths in our plane are but half truths. So the most absolute truth you can have in the third dimensional world is a half truth that will take you to the end of that lesson, and then you have to make a quantum leap to the next planar dimension, not out of the third dimension, but just in your process from wherever you're at, you have to make a leap, and then you'll acquire another half truth, which sometimes can seem to be at ends or opposite of the previous truth that you learned. But one thing that is universal law is that all truths can be reconciled. All opposites can be reconciled. Because at the end, we think of opposites as something that's linear, like, oh, you have this pole and you have that pole. But really, they're spherical, and poles move in a sphere. So we can always travel around that sphere, experiencing that lesson or that truth. And one point of the sphere may seem blue, and another may seem red, but at the end, we learn that the reconciliation was a full spectrum of colors. Just as it's an example. Hey, what's another example of like a half-truth? Okay, so like another half-truth could be like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. There we learn that things have to be balanced, that, that if you take from someone, you have to give. And if someone takes from you, you have the right for retribution, okay? But then we go to a deeper truth, that an eye for an eye means something else. That a tooth for a tooth means something else. And we're gonna learn what that something else is in this lesson today. What are some of those deeper meanings? So I'm gonna continue with a story about myself, okay? Because forgiveness is the beginning point, okay? The mantra for this week, and it's not that you're gonna have a mantra every week, for those of you guys, but you may, I don't know, if I find them, I'm definitely gonna hand them all over to you. The mantra for this week is love, I'm sorry, forgiveness brings me to love. Love brings me to the light. Forgiveness brings me to love. Love brings me to the light. So when I was 25 or so, I walked into a Miami Beach nightclub, and I knew that the event was a special event. There was an event being hosted by the Kabbalah Center. So I knew that, it was going to be a spiritual thing. I wasn't, not that I'm spiritual now, but if I'm not spiritual now, I was far less spiritual then. But there was this rabbi there that I really liked, this guy, Shimon Sarfati, who in the end became my honored teacher for several years. But this night, I didn't know him as my teacher. I just knew that he was Rabbi Shimon from the Kabbalah Center, this really cool guy that, had a lot of chutzpah to him. And so the evening's going on, and eventually I see that he's sitting at this table, and there's a line. And so it's Shimon, so I don't know what's going on, but I don't care. I want to go see Shimon. So I'm in the line. And then, as people are talking in the line, I find out that I'm there and waiting for a palm reading. And now I thought this was hilarious. I had never heard of a rabbi that did palm reading. But as it turns out, Kabbalah is a very ethereal science. They do face readings, palm readings, astrological readings, moon readings. It's a whole astrological science, ethereal science that does a lot of study with the astros and the human signature, the unique signature of each person. So it's my turn to sit with Shimon, and he grabs my palm, and we chit chat a little bit, and then he starts the reading. And he gets to one of my palms, and he has me do this thing with my hand, like this kind of like weird shaped thing like this. And he's looking at it in different angles. And he says to me, you suffered a strong trauma when you were a child. And I started laughing because my whole childhood was like from day 5 to year 8.5 was pure trauma. Like to the day my mom finally walked out of my dad's life, it was like 8.5. And so I just started laughing. I'm like, yeah, I had trauma as a kid. He goes, no, you had a very specific incident. And I said to him, I said, I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe. He goes, no, it was with your grandmother. I said, oh. I said, I was. And I'm thinking to myself, an angle, is it a cold reading? You know, I mean, I bet I could, you know, like 9 out of 10 people, I could tell them they had some kind of trauma with their grandmother. When she died, you cried, you know, and, oh, of course, oh my God, it was so horrible when Granny died. So I'm wondering to myself, you know, is this guy, really, I love Shimon. Is he working me now? Like, all of a sudden I'm thinking to myself, wow, did I read this guy wrong? And he's just a grafter or something? And he says to me, he goes, and now I know that he sensed all that doubt inside of me because he took my hand at that time. He looked at me and he very gently said to me, he goes, she raped you when you were a child. And there he had me. Because that's something that like 2 people in the whole world knew at that point in my life. 3, I told my therapist. So he got me with that one. I said, wow. I said, yeah, that's true. And there began the evolution of a lesson for me. He told me, and I just want you guys to bear with this because it always, and I'm always looking for a different way of saying it if you have an idea, but because it's hard on the ears when you first hear this. He said to me, it was your responsibility. And I said to him, Shimon, you know, I was a child. I was a little boy. How could you say that being raped as a child by an adult is my responsibility? And that's where the lesson got serious. Well, it turns out that we have past lives. You know, we have many past incarnations. And so the Kabbalistic word is tikkun. And a more common word is karma. And so we see that tikkun or karma, tikkun's a little bit different because tikkun only basically deals with dark consequences or dark layers that you've created for yourself. But karma, we know, there's good karma, there's bad karma, but the truth is just karma. There's the consequences of your actions. There's the experience that you yourself decide that you need to learn in this world, in this life. So Shimon explained to me that lives are like, they're like planting seasons, you know, and we move from one season to another, just like we move from one life to another. So in past lives, I may have done a lot of good. And in this life, I may reap a lot of rewards. In past lives, I may have raped, I may have molested, I may have stolen, I may have done a lot of negativity. So I'll reap negative rewards. But if we can release the emotional attachment, if we can release the victimology mindset and accept autonomous sovereignty over self. I mean, if truly I am divine, if truly I am an image of the Creator, if truly, as it is said, I am God and there's gods and goddesses here before me, if truly I'm a free will being, then that makes complete sense because I'm never the subject of anyone else except my own creation. Through past lives and through my current life, I am preparing the field of future lives. And I'm at the same time reaping the reward of past life. I'm learning compassion, learning forgiveness, learning acceptance, learning how to give help, learning how to accept help, learning how to be joyful, learning how to be happy. All these lessons, boom, 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 they come from seeds, either of this life or a previous life. So there's where the lesson, a tooth for a tooth and an eye for an eye, takes on the next level of learning. You yourself will give your own eye or take your own tooth. It's up to you in how you treat yourself and how you treat others. That's how you're going to determine what you're going to reap in the future, what kind of rewards you're going to have, what kind of lessons are you designing for yourself as an autonomous sovereign being? What lessons are you designing for yourself in this life and in lifetimes to come? There was a young man who was married and had 3 daughters, and he was the sole heir of his family's land. And this was in the early 1800s. But on this land, there were a lot of minerals, a lot of emeralds. And there was a group of men that wanted to rob this young man of his land. He was young, he was the sole heir, had a wife, 3 daughters. And the guy lived, and he lived off the land, not by exploiting it. So long story short, a judge, a lawyer, and a local businessman got together, and they legally robbed the young man of his land. They worked around the legal ploy, and the young man was convicted, falsely convicted of a crime. He went to jail. His wife and his daughters fell into poverty. They had to leave the land. They were never heard from again, and the young man died in jail. And the title of the land was taken over by the judge, the crooked attorney, and the businessman. 100 years later, there's a teacher, a spiritual teacher with his student. And he tells the student, "Come with me, I want you to see something." And very quickly, they run across a trail in this forest. It's like a jungle forest area. And so they get to a spot, and the teacher holds the student and tells him to be very silent. And they're observing, and he's just pointing in the area where he wants them to observe. And so there he sees that there's a few mules, and they're all packed. They're packed with something very heavy. And he could tell, it's either gold or copper or silver. Turns out it's emeralds, okay? And he sees 3 men laying down in very simple camp gear around the fire. Mind you, it's like the early 1900s now. And then he sees something glimmer in the distance, very briefly. And so the student places all his attention there. And about 50, 60 yards in front of where he saw the glimmer, he sees the shadow of a man. And he grabs his teacher because he sees that the man is quietly approaching the 3 men that are sleeping. But the teacher detains him, doesn't let the kid move, and tells him to just be very quiet. Surely that man that was on the prowl takes the knife that he was holding and quickly slits the throat of the 3 men that were sleeping, gathers the mules together, and rides away with them. The student's in shock. This guy's never seen anyone get killed before. And he wants to know why his teacher let the guys be killed, why they didn't stop the man or at least warn the 3 men. And then the teacher places his hand over the student's head, and very quickly the student sees the whole story that I told you guys about the young man, his wife, and the 3 girls, and the property that was stolen. The teacher then tells the young man, "We're standing on that same property right now." He goes, "The 3 guys you just saw get killed, that was the judge, that was the crooked attorney, and that was the dirty businessman. The guy that you saw cut the throat was the guy that they had justly sentenced to death and stolen his land, this very land that we're on now. Those guys came back to repeat the whole story, but this time with a balance, an eye for an eye. See, that young man lost his riches. He lost his life because of the lie that those 3 men had cast in a previous life. So in this life, they had to lose their life to him, and he had to regain the riches that they stole from him. Of course, none of the 4 participants knew that that was the story that was going on. They were just playing their roles in this life. And that's how it is. You know, that person that hurt you, or that person that betrayed you, or that person that brought you a huge blessing, that person that changed your life forever in an amazing way, they don't know that in a past life there was a story between you and them, or that there was a similar story between you and someone else, and they just came in to play a role. Just like you yourself right now have no awareness of the role that you're playing or replaying in your life and in someone else's life. So this is why we have to have an awareness, because I'll tell you something about this. Like in this lifetime, I came into this life in a criminal family, and everything that's a very high life, and everything that's involved with that, you know, and I could have easily returned to that pattern of taking advantage of women sexually, of being a rapist or a molester. I don't know how bad it could have gotten. I'm grateful to God it didn't. But I know that if I had just made different choices, that's where I would be today. Okay. So I know that you have to relive a certain part of your past life, and then you can, you know, you're liberated off of that, and then you can make choices whether to continue down that frequency, or struggle and work again to reclaim a new path. But I also know that if we're not careful with our choices, we can fall into a lifetime where nothing you do will alleviate the karma. You have to live. It's like the whole story is written. The story for that lifetime is completely, and there's no exit. You have to suffer, you have to go through what you have to go through, because the accumulation from the past is so great that now it has to be experienced, played out in order for it to be released. So this brings us to forgiveness. Why forgiveness is so important. We need to forgive for a lot of reasons. The first reason that we really forgive is really for ourselves. You know, if somebody stole your cookie, and believe me, this cookie could represent anything that's near and dear to your heart, anything of great significance can be this cookie. If this person stole this cookie, or this group of people stole your cookie, they were there to steal your cookie for a reason. They're playing a role. And that cookie being taken from you is a gift, because it's allowing you to balance a past debt that you didn't even know you had. So when that person steals that cookie, like I said, you can vent, you can get upset, but we have to come into then a space of clarity, a space of reasoning, where you can say, you know what, it's in my benefit to forgive that person because they were doing me a favor. And I know it's hard, like, you know, they stole money from me, or they stole my innocence. But the thing is, I had previously stolen, I had previously taken, I had previously lied, and I created a debt. And that person took on that sinister role so that I could be liberated, so that I could be free of that debt going into the future, of that debt. So when we first forgive, we find that forgiveness is for ourselves. Forgiveness is a way of saying, I recognize that I had a debt, and that my mother abandoning me, my father physically abusing me, my business partner stealing from me, I recognize that that's a way for me to settle an energetic contract that I had pending. Okay? So that's the first reason we forgive. The second reason we forgive is also for ourselves. Because, like the example we said last week I had a stick, this week I have a pen. You know, this is the concept of my stolen cookie. Okay, this pen represents my being raped as a child, as an example. Well, I'm 40 years old, okay? I'll be 40 years old for the rest of this year. How long should I have carried that pen with me for? Because I carried it for about 20, 25 years, and it was horrible. It was heavy. I was angry. I was depressed. I hated life, and everybody owed me everything. And the only person that was paying was me. And one day I said, you know, I just don't want to carry that pen anymore. But for me to be free from this pen, I had to forgive. So the second reason we forgive is so that we can be liberated from the burden, so that me, myself, and I can be liberated from the pain, the shackles, the imprisonment, the disempowerment of the past. That's the second reason we forgive. The third reason we forgive is for other people. We forgive so that they may have peace, so that they may have grace, so that their karmic burdens may be lighter. Because I know from universal law that as I give, I receive. So the next reason to forgive is for you, because the reason before that was for someone else, so that the universe can say, you know what, that person stole Carlos's cookie, but Carlos forgives them. We should forgive them too. We can scale back their accountability. Their payment can be lessened. Their weight, their burden, their debt can be lessened because Carlos forgave. And then the universe says, hey, you know what? Carlos forgave. He deserves a little bit of forgiveness too, you know? And then we get. Because I'm going to give you guys a warning, because everybody here wants to evolve spiritually, or else, you know, you just wouldn't be on this call. Carlos 10 years ago, is that accurate? Yeah, that wouldn't have been so bad. So Carlos, even 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, Carlos then cutting somebody off and giving them the bird, not such a big deal. Carlos doing that today, it's a bigger deal. Why? It's the same action. Everybody cuts everybody off, gives them the bird, no big deal driving. But the level of responsibility, the level of accountability that I have today is greater than it was 10, 15 years ago. 10, 15 years ago, I wasn't qualified to host this series of classes that we have now. So just the fact that I'm saying this for you so that you can think about your life, about what you want to do, especially in your spiritual pursuits. When you put yourself out there, when you start opening your mouth and talking and giving people guidance and counsel and advice and an opinion, the first thing the universe does is hold you to that. It holds you, your actions to your words. So it's very important as we evolve spiritually to, one, like we said at the beginning, have an awareness of the mode that we're in when we're about to take a decision or take a step. And two, how quickly can I come back into forgiveness? You know, I've got a great story. A week ago, my partner and I, we had been flying like 18 hours. We had gone through like 3 airports, international timelines, like bags lost. We're waiting at the airport for another hour for our bags to show up, because it made more sense to wait than to leave and just be traveling without bags. And so my partner decides that, you know, it's time for her to get her cell phone turned back on, normal. Call the company. Oh, there's a pending debt. Okay, well, why is the debt? And so eventually I'm going back and forth to the bag line and, you know, checking. And I come back from one of these trips and she's crying. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why in the world are you upset? And then she tells me, no, this guy on the line. So I get on the phone, you know, because the man has to save the day. Nobody's asking me to save the day, but, you know, it's wired into us. So I grab the phone. I'm like, what's your name? He's like, Will. And I'm like, Will, why is my wife crying? Well, right now, why is she crying? And, you know, the guy did have an attitude. And the guy was, I forgot what's the word that we used for him, but he was just like, really like, he's like, oh, like cynical. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry she's crying. And I just got more and more heated. And so eventually the call ended. And I'm thinking to myself, yep, this guy is going to get parasites and he's going to have stomach pains for at least a week. Yep, this is what I'm going to pray into his life. I'm definitely casting this on him. Dude, and I haven't cast anything against anyone in years. Like, I'm not even allowed to do that. Like, but my mind, I was just like in such a place, like, oh, I wanted to tear this guy energetically apart. And like 4 or 5 days later, I'm in the shower. And Spirit says to me, if Spirit goes, so do you still want the parasites? I'm like, I'm like, parasites? And then all of a sudden I get a flash of how angry anybody that have parasites. I'm like, no, I forgive him. I forgive him. I forgive him. It's all good. It's all good. And then Spirit says, yeah, but you forgive yourself. And I was like, yeah, of course I forgive myself. I know better. I know better. And I shouldn't behave that way. I shouldn't allow my mind to go there. But I do forgive myself. So in one shower, I forgave two people. I forgave Will and I forgave me. And that was great, you know? And so why am I telling you this? Because we're all human. We get upset. We get angry. We have people that are just wrong. I mean, they're just people that are wrong. That they're thinking wrong. They're acting wrong. And they're creating wrong in everybody's life. And sometimes these bubbles of wrong come across our happy pastures and we're like, what are you doing here? Get away. And we forget that we're happy land people. And all of a sudden we got shotguns and we're ready to run them out of town. And that's really important, guys, is to remember, why am I here? What's my pursuit? What do I really want out of life? And I want happiness. I want joy. So then I have to give that I have to give that tooth, because I want forgiveness, because I want happiness, because I want joy in my life. Then I have to give the tooth of forgiveness. I have to give the eye of joy. Things that happen in our life happen so that we can forgive. Okay, because we're here playing a game. This whole thing is a game. And if we're truly learning to be like the creator, if we're like little mini goddesses and gods, and we're learning about this massive power of creation, okay, then we need to have lessons that teach us everything, lessons that teach us how to be happy, lessons that teach us how to share. And we need lessons that teach us how to forgive, because the whole energy construct, there's all these spectrums of energy, and they all flow from each other, to each other, through each other, and they hold their unique signature, their unique vibration. But as little mini gods and goddesses, we have to learn how to play, how to create with these energies. So whatever is happening into your life, from someone keying your car to like what happened to me the other day, I have no idea. Somebody stole my debit card number, and getting simple things done has been a headache for 5 days, to something more serious, a deeper impact, a deeper trauma. We have to honor and recognize the experience. If it's a death, a theft, a violation of my person through rape or verbal abuse or physical abuse, yes, we have to honor that there's an impact, that there's a shock, there's a trauma. This has to be processed. Sometimes it can take minutes, sometimes days, sometimes a year, okay, sometimes a little longer. But at the same time, while recognizing and honoring the physical aspect of what's happening, of what's being felt, as beings who are aspiring to evolve spiritually, we have to know that we can cut down our reaction time significantly by going into the alchemic work, by transmutating and transmuting the energies from darkness to light. And one of the vehicles to transition energy from darkness to light is forgiveness, is to enter into a dialogue of forgiving and giving forgiveness and forgiving yourself. And it's also very important to ask for forgiveness. Many times this is very difficult. Some programs, they have you contact each person individually and ask them for forgiveness. And I think this is very healthy. I think that reaching out to people and acknowledging the fact that you did something that wasn't the best version of yourself, that sucked for them, that hurt them, and asking them for forgiveness, that's good for you. It's good for them, and it's good for you. Sometimes there are situations that are very toxic. Like my dad. My dad is just a toxic dude. He's come to drink Yahé. He's come to see my teacher. But he's just a toxic dude. That's just the role that he's playing in his life. So the healing that I've done with him has been at a distance. Okay. I ask his forgiveness at a distance. I tried that once face to face, and his reaction was very sarcastic. So I'm like, all right, but look, I did it, right? Because I'm not doing, I'm asking for forgiveness, and really, it's not about whether the person forgives you or not. That's on them. The universe will forgive you. You will forgive yourself. If they want to carry that pen forever, that's on them. You already gave them the easy way out, because it's so much easier to forgive. You know, the human heart is moved. Oh, wow, you know, Russell just asked me for forgiveness. Fuck, yeah, dude, of course, you know, and of course I'm going to forgive him. Because, you know, maybe before I was like, you know, that guy, this and that, he doesn't even ask, he doesn't even say he's sorry. All of a sudden, the person, you're there saying, hey, you know what, Carlos, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that this happened. I'm sorry that I did this. You know, maybe here's why I did it, you know, or not, but you're asking for forgiveness. And then from that point forward, is up to that person whether they want to release that pen or not, you know, but you've given them the easy way out. So what really important is to have in our daily practice is to ask for forgiveness and to give forgiveness, to make sure that it's a complete cycle. You know, and like I said last week, and when I'm praying, I like to ask for forgiveness from the past, from the future, from the present, and to give forgiveness to the past, the future, and the present, to anyone and anything in any situation. But what I have found is that there's layers to forgiveness. And many times, myself included, I think, oh, you know, I've forgiven that, or I've let that situation go. But then, like in my what happens to me is like I'll get a memory. Like I'll just be daydreaming or drinking some kombucha or something, and then I'll get a flashback. And I'm like, oh, okay, so there's still something there. You know, I thought I forgave Tony. I thought I let that situation go, but there's a residual there, and the universe brings me that flashback so that I know, so then I can go back and do a prayer of forgiveness and keep working on that until it's liberated. Why does it happen like that? Sometimes forgiveness takes a long time because the impact and the trauma is very deep within us. And we've already developed calluses over it. So through the continued practice of forgiveness, we go down a layer, then the callus is hard, you know, it has to be removed. Then there's more stuff, then we go down another layer, remove another callus. You know, so sometimes there's layers to forgiveness. And sometimes those layers can take years. You know, again, we can always intensify the practice. We can always intensify our disciplines, our rituals, our prayers, our ceremonies, and put the intention of these intensified actions towards the application of this forgiveness, which will expedite the process. You know, so you always have the power to let go sooner, to let go faster. Sometimes it's just hard. You know, it's just hard from a limited human perspective. To get things done with as much power and grace as we naturally have to do. And, you know, and it's not our fault. We're learning now, you know, and hopefully generations will learn sooner and sooner. And, you know, in no time at all, we'll have this will be basic stuff that they're learning in high school. They're already dealing with advanced material, energetically, quantum, physically, etherically speaking. Spiritually, the course material hopefully will be more advanced at a younger age, and we don't have to wait till now to learn this stuff. But better now than never, right? Take another sip. We'll be right back. Okay. So before we move on to gratitude, one thing about attitude. Our teacher, Taita Juanito, always says, he says, you know, if you know that you're going to be happy 15 minutes from now, or if you know that you're going to forgive your boyfriend or your husband or your mom 20 minutes from now or a day from now, why are you going to get upset now? Why waste time in anger when you know that in a little while you're going to forgive, let go, and move on? Why get depressed? Why allow yourself to wallow in sadness when you know that in an hour or 2 or 3 hours or a day from now, you're going to be happy again? You know, so it's very important as we work to draw in, to attract fulfillment into our life, is to have an awareness of our attitude. You know, what mode are we in when we're about to take a reaction? What attitude am I displaying towards a person, towards myself, to a situation? Because many times as we develop spiritually, and I was going to make a joke, but you know, truth is, I'm guilty of this. I've been guilty of this. We become self-righteous. You know, all of a sudden, it's like no one has the right to bother you. No one has the right to intrude upon you. No one has the right to waste your time. And should someone violate you as the being of light that you are, they will suffer the consequences. They will feel the wrath of your spiritual might. And boom, right there's the moment when we lose it. That's the moment when we lose it. Because we have to remember that true spiritual power isn't power for the sake of power. True spiritual power comes from a direct connection to the Holy Spirit by being an ambassador, an embodiment of unconditional love. That's where the ultimate power comes from, in my experience. And I've met a lot of powerful magicians and shamans and rabbis, but the most powerful ones weren't the ones that could do really cool, amazing things with the weather and with time. No, they were the ones that had the deepest, most authentic connection to God. They were pure channels of the force of the Creator. They are pure channels of the force of the Creator. So this is what we want to be, right? We want to have our crystal, our spirit so clean, so in tune with mind and body that we can channel source, okay? So make sure that as you're stepping forward in your evolution, when something happens that's upsetting, you don't become so righteous that you're going to give them parasites and stomach aches for a week. Embarrassing. But it happened. It's over. I forgave myself. I forgave Will and asked Will for his forgiveness. So we're good, you know? We also have to let go and move on. We can't carry that cross forever, neither ours nor anyone else's. I'm going to stop for a second, and I'm going to unmute everyone. Actually, if you guys, so we have two people on phones, so I'm going to ask them first if they have a question. If you have a question, please, you can just type question or your name in the comments, and then I'll unmute you. So if you have a question, just go ahead and type, and I'm going to unmute. Hola, caller, how are you? Can you hear me? The 310 number, 804-0220. Okay, I'm going to mute you again. Heidi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Do you have a question?
No, I'm good. I loved it. It was wonderful. I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. Okay, and my amazing production director of production says, who has a question? Francisco, mi hermano. Let's see, unmute.
Mute, there we go. Can you hear me?
Brother. Okay, what's your question?
So the question that I have, I sort of typed it on the chat. It's basically, can we influence Carlos and perhaps change karma or the energies that we're bringing from our prior lives? Is that possible?
That is such an awesome question. Okay, I'm going to mute you, and I'm going to answer the question. By my brother Francisco here. Oh, you muted yourself. Thank you, Francisco. Excellent. Okay, yes, it's absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible. In fact, so you have to influence it. Okay, you have to, whether you're going to make it better or worse, you can make it something because you're already, how to make it gratitude and forgiveness. Okay. And then there's action steps. And we're going to talk about some action steps at the end of this call. But for example, if you dedicate a fast or a meditation or a prayer or a ritual, it could be, it could be, so like you set a fire and you're going to give gifts to the fire, okay, as a ritual. Or you say every day for the next week at 2 o'clock, I'm going to plant flowers or light a candle or say a prayer. Any kind of ritual, any kind of prayer, meditation, ritual, or ceremony. It could be a cacao ceremony. It could be a yahe ceremony. It could be a San Pedro, a peyote ceremony. or a fast. You can dedicate any of these things as an intention towards your karma. You know, you can just say, dear creator, my ancestors, my ascended masters, I'm going to place this, whatever this is that we just spoke about, as a payment towards my past debts, towards my spiritual debts. And then as you make those payments, it brings in sweetness. It alleviates the scale. It brings in balance. And then how you treat the earth is a form of payment. The type of sharing that you do, the type of charity that you give is a form of payment. When there's someone that you don't like, or someone that can't advance your cause any, and you do a favor for them in good heart, that's also a payment. So there's a lot of things that we could do. Absolutely. If Juanito were here, he would say the greatest payment you can make is the greatest prayer you can offer, and it's how you live your daily life. Because if I was a vile, wretched human being in my past life, and in this life, like me, like in this life, yeah, like exactly like me. Listen, guys, my tendency in this life is really like, I'm a criminal by nature. And it's an element that I'm very comfortable in. But I chose to make differences. And those changes, albeit true, they're a lot easier for me now. They were very hard when I started, very difficult, very painful. But because I changed my daily prayer. Okay, so my daily life is a prayer. I changed my prayer from being one of self-service to being one of selfless service. So in changing my daily attitude, my daily speech, my daily walk, my actions, my thought, I changed my prayer. And this also becomes, because the universe says, hey, look, he was pretty vile back then. He came into this world acting pretty vile. He kind of enjoyed it and still wanted to change. So you get credit, you know, if we want to think of it in that way, you get credit in your favor for making positive changes. And let me see. Francisco, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. And that answered my question, Carlos.
Okay, you got it, bro. Okay, you can mute yourself. Thank you, Francisco. You're better at this than I am. Okay, guys, so I don't see any other question. Okay, one new message. Okay, Angelica has a question, so we're gonna find Angelica here on my, and I'm gonna unmute her. Okay, Angelica, what's your question?
Hi, Carlos. I just had a question about putting these things into practice with somebody that you're potentially in contact with a lot. Like say somebody wrongs you and they didn't ask for forgiveness, but in order to maintain a relationship, something has to happen. So would I forgive the person who wronged me even without them asking for it, and then continue to have a relationship, or just be good with that? Just tell the universe, okay, I forgive her. We're good.
Well, that's a great
practical
question.
Side. Yeah.
So here's what happens with that. You have to forgive them until you don't feel any animosity, any anger, or any loss or wrong done by them. Okay? So they took your cookie, but you have to forgive them until you feel it was good that they took your cookie. That was perfectly fine. Now, if this person is the person that's always stealing cookies, you don't have to be around them either. You know, you can remove yourself from their life. You can set boundaries with the person. Okay? But either way, it's still important to forgive them and to continuously forgive them until you feel resolution, or the word that my teacher would use is reconciliation. So you can reconcile in your heart with that person. Every day, make an extension of forgiveness in your mind. And you could tell them I forgive you, but every day in your mind, you have to forgive them. Another thing that I found that worked very well is mental exercises. So before I went to the office, and I didn't like almost anybody that I worked with, I would create these mental exercises where I would see myself with each individual, Sometimes it was something really silly, like we were holding hands like little kids playing Ring Around the Rosie, having a good time. Some other times I would have the same conversation over and over with them, each time making the conversation sweeter, with less edge, with less reproach, with more acceptance. And so I create these imaginary worlds and scenarios and situations with the people. And what I've noticed is, if I'm angry at them, even if I initiate the scenario in a sweet way, if I role play long enough in my mind, I'm going to come to the anger, and I'm going to tell them why I'm angry and all the things that they did. And then I'm going to continue role playing until I find a balanced energy, you know, a field of homeostasis where everything is in equilibrium. So the forgiveness, you know, you can approach them once if you want, and tell them, look, I forgive you for this, you know, if you feel it in your heart. The daily forgiveness in the mind, in the prayer, and then the role-playing games of how you would like to see it play out. And it's like everything else that's energetically, you know, we do it one time, it's just a little ping. But you do it enough times, the ripple creates. That's why, you know, those daily prayers, those daily meditations, those daily mantras, the first time it's just a little ping, but then it gets stronger and stronger, and the echo resonates with greater energy, with greater strength. Does that answer the question? You're welcome.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, it'll take 3 more seconds. If anybody has a question, please type it in. Okay, guys, we're going to continue on to gratitude. So, if life is a staircase to heaven, in my opinion, gratitude is one half, forgiveness is the other. And the whole thing is held together by the grace of the Creator. So gratitude. I'm going to start gratitude with a story, okay? And I'm told that this is a true story. I've certainly read it several times and seen it. So it could possibly very well be true. If it's not true in detail, it is true in content. It definitely has happened and continues to happen, sadly, today. One day, a man woke up and he found out that his net worth was $2 million. And he committed suicide. On the same day, a man woke up, realized that his net worth was $2 million, and threw the biggest party of his life. He'd never been happier. The difference, to save time, is perception. One man had previously been worth $57 million. He woke up to find that he had lost $55 million in the markets overnight, and that was only worth $2 million. So he hung himself. The other guy was a cab driver for 16 years, who the night before fell asleep before the lottery numbers were announced. And his wife nervously sat up all night waiting for him to wake up to let him know that they were millionaires. Everybody had $2 million. One guy thought it was good enough to die. The other guy thought it was good enough to throw the party of a lifetime. It's perception that made the difference. One guy was grateful for what he had and celebrated. The other guy was not grateful for what he had and concluded his life. What you're able to weather in this world is directly dependent upon your direct connection with the Creator. If your Creator, if your Divine Mother and Divine Father are the source of all things in your life, then you are eternally grateful, because all you need, you already have. That connection, that relationship, that sacred love between parent and child, between your divine Creator and your sacred self. Once we brought in our view outside of this relationship, then we can fall into suffering through loss or hubris through gain. If you can maintain your sole focus only on this relationship, only on this love, you will always be grateful. You will always be in awe and in gratitude, because you will be overwhelmed with gifts you receive, knowing that all you need are not the gift until with the Creator, until we can solidify within ourselves that we're truly worthy of whole divine love at all times, and it's always flowing to us, it's always around us. There's always going to be room for doubt. When we have doubt, we feel uncertainty. With uncertainty comes the undoing of all things that are sacred in this world. A person can be grateful when they have that relationship and nothing else. And a person that has everything else and doesn't have that relationship will never find true gratitude in their life. And that's sad, because gratitude is really the key that unlocks forward mobility. You cannot gain more until you're grateful for what you have. Yeah, you can have another car. Yeah, you can have another plane, but you're not happy. You see? So you can have more stuff, but you'll never gain. Gain is a positive movement. It's a gain. Getting more stuff doesn't mean that you're gaining anything. Oftentimes it means you're losing peace of mind, because you've got more stuff to get insurance for. You got more stuff that somebody might want to take. You got more stuff to protect from the government or from criminals or from both, because sometimes they're one and the same. So stuff doesn't mean gain. Gain comes through connection. We're here, this is a spiritual class. We're talking about spirituality. We understand that the spiritual world is what really influences the physical world, and our physical actions have, of course, spiritual consequences. As above, so below, as below, so above. So in life, we need to be grateful for what you got. You need to be grateful for what you don't have. And you need to focus on the gifts that you received instead of the ones that you never got. Okay, and I'll break that down for you. Every morning, we have the promise of a new day. Every day, you can decide to make a change. Like Carlos really wants to become physically healthy, okay? And Carlos went to an amazing yoga class on Sunday. And on Monday, Carlos didn't do any yoga or exercise. And today's looking like Carlos is not gonna do it. How bad do I really want it, guys, you know? So yeah, I did a little bit 2 days ago, but you know, am I gonna do anything today? I don't know. I got my director of production looking at me like, you better. But so being grateful for what we have. Every day we have a new promise. Every day I can get up and do 20 minutes of exercise, can't I? Every day you can get up and forgive. Every day you can get up and express gratitude. Every day you can get up and make the difference in your life so your life will be completely different. You understand? Because every day you have that promise, you have that opportunity. You know, every day you can make the decisions to take the actions that are going to change your life over time. But, you know, if you skip those 20 minutes every day, or if you only do it once a week, you're not really going to get the results that you want. So be grateful for what you have. You have breath. You have the promise of a new day. You have a clear road to liberating your past. You have a clear road to connecting with your divine mother, with your sacred father. You have lungs that work, feet that move, eyes that work. You have a roof over your head and clothes on your back. And you've got that today. I'll tell you guys a story. A few years ago, in a country not the US, man, that's true. One of the ways that I sustained myself was by importing marijuana from the US, illegally, of course, and then selling it. It was one of the ways that I kept an income for myself. And so I had just stopped doing that. Not because I think it's wrong or horrible or sinister. I think marijuana is a medicine and everybody has a right to access that medicine. It's just that the situation that I was involved in changed. The dynamics of the logistics changed. And I didn't really want to participate with some of the new people that were part of the situation. And so I wake up, it's Saturday morning. I'm in Costa Rica in my little beach town, in my little one-bedroom efficiency. And it's market day. Saturday was the day to go to the farmer's market and get the food for the week. And I wake up and I know I'm broke. I don't have any money. I don't have any prospect of money showing up under my door. I had just started doing healing massages like 3 years ago. And I didn't have many clients, you know, but I remember I woke up that morning and I said, no, I'm going to take a page from the Bible. I'm going to anoint my face with oil. I'm going to clean myself up and I'm going to go forward with faith. So my version of that was waking up, doing my morning prayers, my morning meditation like nothing. I got up, I took a shower, I made my bed, I cleaned my apartment, I got dressed, and then I sat on the bed and I said, okay, God, it's time to get real. I'm about to get on that bicycle. I'm going to go to that farmer's market. I've got no money. I need help. And so as I'm about to leave the door, I had an eighth, which is like 3.5 grams of weed left. But that was for me, you know. And the spirit said to me, take your weed with you. I said, I'm not going to smoke. Take your weed with you. All right. I grabbed it, put it in my pocket. As I'm biking I stopped my bike, and it's this guy who had money to ice ages ago. I remember that I think it was like $40 or something. It wasn't, you know, a good amount, especially in the Costa Rican farmers. He goes, hey, I got the money that I owed you. Puts the $40 in my hand. Thank you very much. God bless you, bro. I get to the farmer's market and I go to my friend's stand and we're talking about his farm and stuff. And I'm kind of trying to figure out what I'm going to get with these $40. And he says to me, he goes, Carlos, do you have any weed? I said, yeah. He goes, how much do you want for it? I said, well, how about we trade food? And so long story short, I left the farmer's market with the food that I needed for the week, with enough money to pay for my phone, which was my internet, and still have a few dollars left over. So psychologically, I could feel okay. I've never forgotten that day because there have been days when I knew that a deadline was looming, you know, a payment on something had to be made. And there was not enough money in the pipe and there was not enough money in my pocket to say, okay, I can securely confirm that I'm going to fulfill that obligation. I've been destitute and broke. And it's by the grace of God, but it's in that instant that it shows up. You know, and if you have something in the future that's owed, but right now you have food, you have breath, you have shelter, you've got everything you need right now. You can cry, kick, and complain when right now is here and you don't have everything you need. But then you got to look back at what you did to get there. You know, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be responsible with the consequences of our actions. And if we can do that, wow, you know, because then the universe gives you compassion. It gives you grace. So if we can gratefully approach the Creator and say, you know what, I know you've got this. Because this one story that I forgot to tell you was about Job. I don't know if you guys know about Job in the Bible, but Job was secure in his connection to his Creator. Whatever God Job worshiped, he believed in that God wholeheartedly to the point where he lost his kids, lost his wife, lost his land, lost his cattle, lost his health, and he still stayed stuck to the feet of his Creator, worshiping that Creator. Then everything was given back to him tenfold. Okay, that's the way we have to be with our gratitude in life. That's the way we have to be with our commitment. If we can be certain that we have 100% connection with our Creator, if we could lay all our problems, all our doubts, all our insecurities bare at the feet of the Divine Mother, Divine Father, and be grateful that we have that connection, you've got everything else you need in life. All your financial problems, all your living conditions, everything will be solved. The solutions will be brought to you so that you can work them and implement them. When we express gratitude for something small or something big, we're using the law of attraction. As you express gratitude, you call gratitude into your life. People become grateful for you. Situations, opportunities open up because they're grateful that you're here on this planet. Just like I'm grateful that you're here on this planet. I'm grateful that we have this opportunity to share. But this is a result of all the other things that I've been grateful for so long. Now we have this, and then you guys will have something else. And then a few weeks from now, I'll have something else. But we have to hold true to that gratitude. Don't get lost in the details of the physical world that want to blind you, that want to test you. If something horrible happens, like your best friend passing away one cold morning for no reason whatsoever, without asking you, okay, let's call that, your car crashing or the bank account crashing or the stock market crashing. Can you hold on to your gratitude? Can you be grateful for what you do have? Can you be grateful for what you don't have? Okay, you don't have a $100 million company facing a $200 million lawsuit. You understand? You don't have a terminal illness. You don't have a wheelchair as your primary mode of mobility. There are things that we don't have in our life that we need to be grateful for. And then focus, when it comes to gratitude, focus on what you got, not what you didn't receive. Oh, I was expecting this. I was hoping for that. I don't know. What did you get? And most of the times when I investigate what people got, it's pretty damn good. Case in point, I asked a patient of mine the other day, how are you doing? This person said to me, horrible. I'm preparing my son to go on a 2-week trip to Europe with his friends. When I grew up, Europe wasn't even, Europe was something we read about for 2 pages in history class. You understand? How can your life be bad if your kid's about to get on a plane to Europe? So guys, we have to really have perspective on life. What did you get? Don't worry, I didn't get, no. If you're gonna focus on something that you didn't get, focus on all the bad things that you don't have to deal with. All the difficulties, complications, diseases. Be grateful you don't have that. Be grateful for what you have and be grateful for what you got, and let expectations go out the window. Let attachments go out the window, okay? Gratitude generates more abundance. And in physical ways to express gratitude other than verbally, you can be creative. If you have employees, even if it's just one employee, one part-time employee, or you have coworkers, little things like little cards, you're a superstar in my life, thank you, with a little candy bar, a little chocolate bar. It's huge. It's huge. Little acts of gratitude. What is like doing, like the other day, a big, my girlfriend in my life, I keep saying my partner, my girlfriend, my director of production, is a huge teacher in my life. Like the other day, because where we're living, you have to physically transport garbage to a whole nother location every time you want to. But she took our neighbor's garbage, loaded it in the truck, and said, hey, let's take it for them so that they don't have to go. So little details like this are forms of expressing gratitude to people. So find the people in your life that you're grateful for and make sure that in some way or another, you're letting them know that you're grateful. Maybe it's a little email, maybe whatever feels right in your heart. Okay. Charity is a big part of gratitude. And we're going to get to this in the abundance class, but I'm a big believer in tithing, in giving a percentage of your time or let's just say a percentage of your resources, whether it's time and or money, donating it somewhere to a cause, to people or persons or a person. Volunteer work is very powerful. And we're going to talk a little bit more about volunteer work in a future class. But volunteer work is a way of expressing gratitude. Sharing is a form of expressing gratitude. So anytime that you can express gratitude, like what Francisco was asking before, This is also bringing energy back into your life and sweetening your karma, sweetening your debt. Having rituals of gratitude are very important. You can have rituals of gratitude for the earth, rituals of gratitude for your ancestors, for your family members. Like to me, ancestors are like, just like one step beyond my grandparents. Like my grandparents are, they're ancestors, but not so ancestry, they were here. So, rituals of gratitude for your family, living and deceased. What are some rituals of gratitude you can do? One of the ones that I like to do is when I'm by an ocean, I like to create a mandala by the ocean. And this could have fruits and feathers and money and crystals and rocks and sticks. You can make the mandala out of anything you want. And I like to put it, personally, I like to go when it's low tide and place it in that section where, when the tide comes back up, it's going to take over that piece of land. And I like to build my mandala there and set my prayer, my intention. Here we're saying, so in this case, you can set a mandala and say, I'm offering this as gratitude for the Pachamama, or I'm offering this as gratitude for my ancestors, okay? Other forms of rituals for gratitude is lighting candles. You can light a candle in honor of an angel or an ancestor, in honor of, I would like to express gratitude for Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, Archangel Metatron, Archangel Gabriel, or for my ascended master so-and-so, or just in general, I want to light this candle as a form of expressing gratitude in the world, that we may all be more grateful for each other. You can use tobacco in your gratitude rituals. Entire ceremonies can be done as gratitude rituals. A night of drinking yahe, breath work. If you have a daily recognition of your ancestors for the past work that they did, being grateful for the past work that you did is also very important. So different spiritual rituals, a yoga practice, a simple, 40, 50 minute asana session can be done as a devotion, as a ritual in gratitude. Most of all, guys, be grateful for yourself. Every day, every single day, give thanks that you're here, because you count. You're so important that life would not be the same without you. My life would not be the same without you. Every grain of sand in the ocean is significant. Every drop of water in the ocean is significant. Each and every one of us is significant. And with us, we have the power through forgiveness and through gratitude to liberate ourselves and really make the power moves that we need to find fulfillment, joy, happiness, empowerment, passion in our lives. Because when we forgive, we liberate ourselves of our debt, and we liberate others of their debt. Be grateful for all the things to be grateful for. So, real quick, guys, this week, if you guys can find this book called Amazing Grace by Nick Good and David Wolf, I highly recommend it. That is your homework for this week, to find Amazing Grace and to begin reading it. We already discussed the Ho'oponopono method, which is a key method for the practice of forgiveness. And now, if you guys have any questions, please type it up here. And just type question or your name. Bueno, guys, so let me see. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Angelica. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Francisco, Russell, Dree, Teresi. Who else do we have here? Oh my goodness. Mariah, Sarah, Stephanie. Guys, thank you so much for making this possible. I love you all. I'm grateful for you all. Be grateful for yourselves. So to recap, the homework this week, we're going to practice the mantra. Forgiveness brings me to love. Love brings me to the light. We're going to find the book, Amazing Grace by Nick Good and David Wolf. I'm going to start reading it. Remember, guys, gratitude generates abundance in your life, okay? If you're grateful for what you got and you share it with others, if you express gratitude and you live gratitude, you're going to have a more abundant life. Guys, thank you so much. The divine in me honors and recognizes the divine in you. May God bless you. May God protect you. And may the divine goddess always guide you. Thank you so much.